Yo, Donald Trump just made history yesterday by moving Bitcoin $10,000 with a single tweet. But what's interesting is the fact that his announcement of the strategic Bitcoin reserve on Truth Social didn't even mention Bitcoin in the initial post. It seems like he did some he did some he had to back up a little bit and say, oh, and of course Bitcoin is mentioned, and he no longer used the word stockpile. He specifically called it a strategic reserve. Has something changed in the Trump administration? Today we're going to be breaking down what this means for the US and how this is accelerating global Bitcoin adoption. Also to mention as well, the White House is going to be hosting a meeting, the first crypto summit on March 7th at the White House. So ladies and gentlemen, it's official. A strategic Bitcoin reserve is happening, but it's not Bitcoin only. That's the negative part. ETH is in there. Cardano is in there. XRP is in there. And that's something that honestly didn't catch me by surprise at all. I'm going to bring up also my legendary co-host. Always optimistic. It's Monday. We're starting off Monday strong. It didn't catch me by surprise, really, that altcoins were included in this post. Originally, the plan was that the strategic Bitcoin reserve was going to be Bitcoin only. But there was I can't reveal my sources, but there was a tremendous amount of pressure on the Trump administration from Ripple. And I'm assuming that there was also lobbying efforts from Solana and Cardano as well, because I don't think they would just be included in there just to be included in there. And I think there's something that Bitcoiners fundamentally underestimated, is that the altcoin lobby is incredibly powerful and influential in the United States. That it is what it is. And I've been telling you guys this from the very beginning. If you're not in the room, you're not in the deal. So what is the tweet? How do I know this is official? Well, I'll read you guys the post from Truth Social. A U.S. crypto reserve will elevate this critical industry after years of corrupt attacks by the Biden administration, which is why my executive order on digital assets directed the Presidential Working Group to move forward on a crypto strategic reserve that includes XRP, Solana, and Cardano. I will make sure the U.S. is the crypto capital of the world. We are making America great again. Now, a little bit of damage control, because he initially released that. And of course, you had David Bailey. David Bailey is the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine. He's the one that got Trump to Nashville. And I'm sure, David Bailey did some texting in the background, because shortly after this tweet or this Truth Social post, Trump followed up with, and obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum as other valuable cryptocurrencies will be at the heart of the reserve. I also love Bitcoin and Ethereum. So a little bit of damage control at the end. This is my take on it. Again, I think Bitcoiners underestimated the altcoin lobby. It doesn't matter in the long term. And the reason it doesn't matter in the long term is that everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. So it doesn't really matter. Now, the positive, and I've been saying this since the beginning of the year, if this strategic Bitcoin reserve gets passed, gets approved, and it's official now, it is coming. My expectation is I wouldn't be surprised if we saw $500,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. This is enormous. You have the most powerful country on the face of the planet economically and militarily just announcing that they are going to buy Bitcoin, or at least, buy Bitcoin, or at least not sell it. And that's an enormous announcement. I can't emphasize that enough. Guys, this is huge. Here's Arthur Hayes, CEO of BitMEX before he stepped down, founder, better said. And here's David Sachs. David Sachs is the AI crypto czar. And he says, President Trump has announced a crypto strategic reserve consisting of Bitcoin and other top cryptocurrencies. This is consistent with his week 1 executive order 14178. President Trump is keeping his promise to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. More to come at the summit. The summit, like I said, is going to be held at the White House on Friday, on March 7th. And of course, we're going to be covering it. Hopefully, we can cover it live for you guys. Arthur Hayes responds to that. He says, nothing new here, just words. Let me know when they get congressional approval to borrow money or revalue the gold price higher. Without that, they have no money to buy Bitcoin and shitcoins. Interesting about how everybody reacted to the inclusion of altcoins into the strategic Bitcoin reserve. I mean, Arthur Hayes is, he co-founded BitMEX, right? It's not a Bitcoin only on-ramp. They have a lot of altcoins on there, and he bluntly calls it shitcoins. What's really interesting too, also, is that the CEO of the largest altcoin casino in the world, Brian Armstrong, said something very similar. And this is his response to the strategic Bitcoin reserve. He says, excited to learn more, still forming an opinion on asset allocation, but my current thinking is, number one, just Bitcoin would probably be the best option. Simplest and clearest story as successor to gold. Two, if folks wanted more variety, you could do a market cap weighted index of crypto assets to keep it unbiased. But probably option one is easiest. So two of the founders of some of the largest altcoin casinos are all saying the same thing. They're like, yo, why is XRP in there? Why is Cardano in here? Like, what is Solana doing in there, man? Just Bitcoin only. What's going on? And this is something that I tweeted over the weekend. I have to give credit where credit is due, because Max and Stacy got this absolutely right. They've been predicting this for a while. El Salvador will remain the only country with a public, there's a key word there, a public Bitcoin reserve. You can audit El Salvador's Bitcoin reserve at any time. You could do it from your home computer. If you have an internet connection, you can audit it. And as you can see, also something that Stacy messaged me and she pointed out to me, check this out. El Salvador, it's almost as if El Salvador knew the dip was coming, because they stopped buying for a week. The dip happened, and then they started buying again. So El Salvador bought the dip. I don't know who's doing the trading over there, but they're doing a great job. Even Peter Schiff, right, agrees with the Bitcoin maxis that the strategic Bitcoin reserve should be Bitcoin only. This is his take. I get the rationale for a Bitcoin reserve. I don't agree with it, but I get it. We have a gold reserve. Bitcoin is digital gold, which is better than analog gold. So let's create a Bitcoin reserve too. But what's the rationale for an XRP reserve? Why the hell would we need that? I mean, it's hilarious. Anthony Pompliano responded, Peter Schiff, Bitcoin maximalist. And Peter Schiff responds with, what part I don't agree with do you not understand? So, and everyone's like, this is crazy, and it is crazy, because if you just connect the dots for a second, you have Peter Schiff, Brian Armstrong, and Arthur Hayes all agreeing that the strategic reserve, digital assets reserve, should be Bitcoin only. Here is Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump, and he says, I love the genius of announcing a strategic reserve on a Sunday. When traditional markets are closed and Wall Street sleeps, for the first time, retail investors win. Traditional finance better catch up, or it will quickly become extinct. The world no longer runs on a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then he tags, I think, their exchange or something like that, World Liberty Fi, BTC, and ETH. What's really interesting, again, is I think, again, I can't emphasize this enough. Bitcoiners fundamentally underappreciated and underestimated the altcoin lobby. Brad Garlinghouse was doing victory laps. Charles Hodgkinson, the founder of Cardano, was doing victory laps. They poured a tremendous amount of money into this to make sure that their altcoins that can be created out of nothing, they can manipulate, gets bought by the US government. And I think I'm not too happy about this, but I would say the positive thing is, again, everything goes to zero against Bitcoin. And positive thing number two is your bags are going to pump. Like if you're holding Bitcoin, like this is a huge win. Like the US government just said, look, we're buying Bitcoin, or we're acquiring Bitcoin, or at least we're not selling the Bitcoin that we do have. Like that is enormous. If that is not the ultimate stamp of approval, I don't know what is. Now, a couple things that I'll mention before I move on to the Hill article regarding the White House crypto summit that's going to be happening on Friday. If they do this via executive order, the danger is that the next president, if it's via executive order and not through legislation, the next president will have the ability to essentially repeal it. Like they could just walk it back. They could just like smash sell all that Bitcoin. They could do whatever they want with it. It's only via legislation where essentially it doesn't matter who goes into office, they can't really do anything with it if it's through the legislative process. So there are limitations to what Trump could do via executive order. And he always runs the danger that, for example, in 2028, I'm 99% sure it's going to be JD Vance on the ticket, which is going to continue the whole America First MAGA agenda. But, the Democrats, they have a chance of winning, right? This is a pretty divided country, and we all know how they currently feel about it. And that could change in the future. But, the Biden administration wasn't exactly happy. So if you have a Democrat who has a very similar outlook on Bitcoin, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to smash sell that. But it was funny because before we went on air, Opti was just like, you know what, Nico, I just want them to pump my bags now. And there's a part of me that agrees with that. We've been waiting a while. If you're class of 20, if you're class of 2016, 2017, you've been burnt. 2021 was cut short. This bull market has been extremely boring. You just want things to start picking up again. Are we at the point where we're just like, daddy government, please pump my bags? Is that where we're at? Anyways, so the White House is going to be hosting a crypto summit, and I'll read you some of the details. The White House is set to welcome professionals in the cryptocurrency industry on March 7th for a first-of-its-kind summit. Attendees will include predominant founders, CEOs, and investors from the crypto industry, as well as members of the President's Working Group on Digital Assets. The summit will be chaired by the White House AI and crypto czar David Sachs and administered by the Working Group Executive Director Bo Hines. One of the president's first executive orders signed during his second term stated his administration would aim to, quote, support the responsible growth and use of digital assets, blockchain technology, and related technologies across all sectors of the economy. Trump has pledged to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world after his family embarked on a business venture in digital currency, earning Eric Trump a keynote at Bitcoin MENA 2024 in Abu Dhabi. Quote, you're going to have the most predominant crypto president in the history of America. The president also served as the primary speaker for Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville while on the campaign trail. So, okay, a couple things to break down here. It is now official. Trump is not a Bitcoin president. He is a crypto president. Now, Bitcoin does fall into crypto, right? I think it's the only true cryptocurrency. Everything else is centralized. But Trump is into crypto. He's not into Bitcoin only. Nayib Bukele, El Salvador, remains the only Bitcoin country in my eyes. And Nayib Bukele remains the only Bitcoin president in my eyes. And that a lot of that goes to Max and Stacey that have done an incredible job kind of maintaining that and keeping the altcoiners at bay over there in El Salvador. So, yeah, I mean, good news overall. The positive news, just to summarize everything, is that Bitcoin is going to pump like crazy this year. I'm very confident of that. When the most powerful government on the face of the planet is announcing they're going to buy it, you could also make a very, very good assumption that the vast majority part of that strategic reserve is going to be Bitcoin. It kind of creates the game theory starts to come into place, right? So if you're China, if you're Russia, and the United States of America starts acquiring Bitcoin, you don't want to get left behind. It kind of forces your hand to start acquiring Bitcoin as well. And we've already seen politicians in Europe talk about this, right? They talked about the idea that like, hey, look, if the US starts buying Bitcoin, like we're not going to have a choice but to buy Bitcoin, right? And when countries that have money printers start using those money printers, start buying something that has absolute scarcity, number goes up. And one last thing that I'll say is, to me, it was like very suspicious that the price went to 78K, and like right before this announcement was made, right? Like that to me, just something feels off, right? So I wouldn't be surprised that with Wall Street and all these institutions and BlackRock here, you're starting to see, manipulation of the price, so that a lot of these institutions buy Bitcoin on the cheap. And make no mistake, if for whatever reason you sold Bitcoin at 78K, like you most definitely sold it to BlackRock, like 99% chance, or MicroStrategy, or the US government, right? You don't know. So yeah, I mean, great news overall. It is official now, ladies and gentlemen. We have a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the United States of America. It is happening. It's here. It's official. The downside is, again, it is not just a strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's a strategic Bitcoin reserve and an altcoin reserve, to put it nicely. So, Opti, I mean, what's your take on here, bro? He did free Ross. He did repeal SAB 121. He did end Operation Choke Point 2.0. He is launching a strategic Bitcoin reserve. He is keeping his promise, but at the same time, he ain't Bitcoin only, man. He's a crypto president. We got to be honest here. Trump is not a Bitcoin president. Trump is a crypto president. Bitcoin falls into the crypto category, and that's great, right? But we got to be honest here. Anyways, before I pass it on to Opti and get his opinion, I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. You guys are absolutely loving the show today. We just broke 800 live viewers on YouTube alone. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Help us break 200 likes within the first 25 minutes of the show. There's 814 live viewers. There's only 131 likes. So smash that like button. Also, shout out to the Rumble audience. The most savage chat in the world makes me and Opti feel bad every single day. Smash that like button, Rumble. And of course, shout out to the X audience as well. X is absolutely popping off. Almost 1,600 live viewers. So Opti, what is your take on this, man? I mean, like, it's official. Trump is a crypto president. Trump is a crypto president. He ain't a Bitcoin president. Now, Bitcoin falls into crypto. So, but he doesn't believe in the whole Bitcoin only. That's very, very clear. And he's, putting Bitcoin, I wouldn't say on equal footing, but he's putting it he's putting a lot of poopy in the same basket as Bitcoin, right? And a lot of these CEOs are using the U.S. government as exit liquidity, essentially. Like XRP, like those guys just created that out of thin air, right? And they're just like, oh, the U.S. government's going to buy my bags, like. And again, and I do put a lot of blame into. I just don't want to blame anyone specifically. I think it was like just a community drop ball. Like, as a community, I think Bitcoiners need to drop the hubris of, oh my God, Bitcoin is the best money the world has ever seen. It is. And I think we're going to win regardless. But I think our hubris is the reason that we allowed the altcoin lobby to get a jump on us the way it did. Pure and simple. Now, there's people that don't think a strategic Bitcoin reserve by the United States is a good idea, like Nick Carter being one of them. There's other people. Mr. Hodl is another one as well. Like, you want the government to, hold as little Bitcoin as possible, and you want individuals taking Bitcoin into self-custody to hold as much Bitcoin as possible, right? So there's that outlook as well. But I'm at this point where, like, I obviously want the number to go up. I want the price to go up. I think, Opti, you're on that boat too. And, we want the price to go up. And I think, obviously, if the U.S. government buys Bitcoin and starts smash buying Bitcoin like Sailor, I think the number is going to go up without a shadow of a doubt, right? So anyways, Opti, what's your take on this? I went on a little bit of a rant. It is the Monday episode. We are starting off strong. What's your take, brother?
Yeah, well, I mean, the last point about kind of being bearish on a strategic Bitcoin reserve is I've kind of been leaning towards that recently. I had when it was originally announced, obviously I was super bullish on it, and I think a lot of Bitcoiners, this is the only reason why they voted for Trump in the first place. Is I saw some people on Twitter say like I voted for a Bitcoin strategic reserve, not a shitcoin strategic reserve. And I mean, are we really surprised when he launched his own meme coin? At this point, you know, we were probably holding out some doubts, even though in the face of what's going on, it's becoming very obvious he's a crypto president. But again, like I've been saying for a while, is as long as Bitcoin is kind of left alone for the next 4 years, I think it's going to be great for the industry. People will understand that there's Bitcoin and there's everything else. And, you know, this tweet, I do kind of have a different take on this tweet personally than Nico did. Obviously, I'm disappointed about the shitcoins going in, but at this point, am I surprised? Like, not at all. I think we could all see the writing on the wall. But I think the follow-up tweet is more of the signal than anything else, where he said, obviously, Bitcoin and, of course, you know, the mother of all shitcoins will be added to it. And I think that take and just that wording there is kind of what we've all been talking about for a while. A lot of people have been kind of wondering whether we're actually even going to get a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Now there's multiple times, multiple points where Trump is doubling down on the fact that, yes, a strategic Bitcoin reserve is one of the focal points of this administration. And I think him saying, obviously, Bitcoin's going to be added to it, and the fact that he kind of didn't mention it in the first tweet, I think is really the signal here that he's obviously like, look, it's Bitcoin and then everything else. Like, of course, if we're going to do a strategic crypto or digital asset reserve, Bitcoin's going to be the main thing. And I did see a graphic on Twitter. I think it was coming from like CNBC or something, where it was going to be 30% Bitcoin, 70% the rest of the shit coins. And, you know, the very easy dunk is 70% of that portfolio is going to go to zero. We know everything's going to zero against Bitcoin. And Nico actually asked a question, and I've been saying this for a while. It's like, who are these lobbying groups that are pushing all these other altcoins? Well, we know the XRP, company, the Ripple company has been pushing XRP to get added. Who knows what Charles Hoskins is doing with ADA or Cardano? I know he's probably doing something behind the scenes. And let's not forget, David Sachs is super invested in the Solana ecosystem. So, and then of course, Ethereum is the biggest one. His sons are really big on Ethereum. They still haven't learned that it's Bitcoin and everything else. And so I think those are kind of the forces that are pushing all these other shit coins into this reserve. But again, I think the biggest point here is, look, we are already seeing that Bitcoin is the world reserve currency, because obviously Bitcoin's going to be the main anchor of this strategic reserve. Bitcoin's going to be the only thing that's going to last through the test of time. All this other VC coin funding, you know, exit liquidity that we're seeing from VC funded companies, basically having the taxpayers pay them off. All this stuff is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And of course, the Bitcoin maxis are right here. Like, it should be Bitcoin only. And the most surprising part is even Brian Armstrong is like, it should probably only be Bitcoin.
Brian Armstrong, Arthur Hayes, Peter Schiff, even like, you know, they're just like, yo, like, come on, guys, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, so like, I'm not surprised by this, but I think, as I've been saying for a while, you know, we've gone through different eras in the Bitcoin ecosystem. We did, you know, ICO, initial coin offerings, and then we did, you know, the NFT stuff, and now we're getting into this point where we're seeing nation state shitcoining. And did we think that when Wall Street got into Bitcoin, they weren't going to do some extreme degeneracy? It's like, look, I get it. Us Bitcoin maxis are living in the future. All of us that are Bitcoin only are right, will be proven to be right. But in the short term, people have to kind of learn their lump. Like, they have to earn those lumps. And now we're just seeing on a level we've never seen before. And, you know, am I personally happy about it? Not really. Like, it does seem like a letdown. Obviously, Nico got mad at me because I didn't actually vote for Trump. I got caught up in the voting stuff and the election and the Bitcoin narrative and stuff. But am I surprised? Not at all. Though I think another big point of this that few are kind of missing is, look, I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I'm kind of bearish on a strategic Bitcoin reserve at this point. But what we're seeing is that the narrative around a strategic Bitcoin reserve is a very powerful narrative right now. And so if Trump is doubling down on Bitcoin being added, or rather crypto digital asset reserve, then, you know, other heads of state are talking about something similar. So it's going to be very interesting to see kind of what Russia or China does in response to this. What if China goes in and just does a straight Bitcoin only strategic reserve? Like I think the global geopolitics of this playing out right now is the most interesting stuff going on, because look, I think you did kind of misspoke a little bit, Nico, where you said now it's official. I think now we're just getting more confirmation that this is a priority. And I think that is kind of signaling to everyone around the world that, hey, you have to take this Bitcoin thing very seriously, because we are taking it seriously. And like I've been saying, hey, we all know there's two use cases for shitcoins. One, it's the fastest way to becoming a Bitcoin maxi. And two, it gives Bitcoin cover to get out of the door. So look, I'm not happy about it, but I think that in the long run and, the next 4 years, this is going to be extremely good for Bitcoin. Hopefully we do get some really good regulations around Bitcoin, eliminating capital gains, etc. That would be the real GOAT move here. But I think Bitcoin is just going to continue to prove that this is the free market of money. You want to go gamble on some shit coins, you want to lose your life savings in a shit coin, think you're going to get rich overnight, like go and have fun. But if you want to save in something that's going to store your value long term, you want to build generational wealth, you want to have something that you can actually use in 5, 10, 20 plus years, it's obviously going to be Bitcoin. So look, it's not perfect. And I think everyone in the chat that's like getting pissed off, yeah, I get it. It's not perfect. But in the long run, we're all going to see that Bitcoin is the world reserve currency. Bitcoin is the only thing that you can store. And everything else is going to go to zero against Bitcoin. So that portfolio is going to eventually just be 100% Bitcoin, because all the shit coins are going to fail. So I don't know. It's hard not to look at this as a win. Obviously, I'm getting trolled saying that I'm glazing Trump right now. But hey, Big Daddy Trump wants to pump our bags. Like, how can we get mad about this? Like, pump our bags, Trump. You're not doing a good job pumping my bag so far. So, good thing I didn't vote, or I'd take it back. Although that's not how it works. But hey, we're gonna win. It's very simple. Like Bitcoin maxis are right. But hey, they're still learning, and are we surprised that America right now, the world of fiat, the world reserve holder of that position, are fiat maxis? Like, come on, guys, they still have to learn what's going on. They're going to get wrecked. If I was you out there, I wouldn't be buying these shit coins. I'd just buy Bitcoin. That's what I do. That's what I recommend to everyone. Just buy Bitcoin. Yes, we might see, some pump and dumps in the shit coin space, but Bitcoin's the only thing that's going to last the test of time.
Yeah, 100%. I think we have to take the W's when we get them, and I think that this is definitely a big W for Bitcoin and for the industry. And I think it's a two-party system in the United States, and like we either had the choice between an administration that was hostile towards the entire industry and an administration that was not just pro Bitcoin, but pro the entire industry as well. And that's the decision we had to make, right? So I think it's a net positive overall. Like I said, I think our bags are going to definitely pump without a shadow of a doubt. And I think this is positive, and I think it's going to allow Bitcoin entrepreneurs to, build out build out without fear of persecution. Now, one thing that I'll say as well is I think everyone has to remember and understand that, Bitcoin doesn't need any special privileges. Bitcoin will win based on its characteristics alone. And if we're so right on that, it's just going to continue to show. Like, if you look at all these altcoins, whether it's Cardano, XRP, Solana, none of them, they've perhaps made all-time highs in dollar terms, but none of them have made all-time highs in Bitcoin terms. In Bitcoin terms, none of them have made all-time highs. So we're going to continue sticking to that point. Everything goes to zero against Bitcoin, regardless of whether a government is buying it or not. Bitcoin is the only thing that has absolute scarcity. So yes, I'm going to take this as a win. Is it perfect? No. But is it still a massive win? Yes. The United States is officially launching a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The United States government's officially going to be holding Bitcoin, which is absolutely bullish. All right, everybody, before we start the show, we have a loaded show for you guys. So much news, so much things to get to. First, we're going to be talking about the shift of the Overton window. Trump is talking about Fort Knox. Elon is talking about Social Security being a scam. Elon follows Senator Cynthia Lummis, and Elon says that Keynes was a great evil. Keynes is all about, all about the whole modern monetary theory. Keynes was all about central banking, this top-down approach to money and government and all this. You can make a very solid argument that, and I tweeted this over the weekend, that the world, it's not a coincidence that the world wars, happened after the establishment of the Federal Reserve. So we're going to be talking about that. And then during the news segment, we're going to be giving you an update regarding the IMF loan to El Salvador. Apparently there's further restrictions onto Bitcoin. Why does the IMF care so much about what's happening in El Salvador? Could it be because they are scared of it? Anyways, I do want to give a very special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, the best place by far to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com, use promo code SimplyBTC. You get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin wishing well for an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on-chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada and the USA. What makes Bitcoin Well unique and special and different is that it's a completely non-custodial platform. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. It doesn't even give you the ability to leave your funds on the exchange. Also, if you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. It's a white glove experience. So if you're tired of dealing with UI, you're tired of dealing with very slow support emails, and you want a real human being every time you want to buy or sell Bitcoin, you definitely want to check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. Go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC to get started. If you're an American, you can now get paid in Bitcoin sent directly to your personal Bitcoin wallet. Share your Bitcoin Well direct deposit details with your employer, set your Bitcoin/dollar split, and receive sats instead of fiat with every paycheck. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinwell.com today and start enabling your independence. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers. We have tons to talk about.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody. I do want to give a very, very special shout out. Oh, wait, Opti, we got a super chat, bro. I'm getting distracted. I apologize. Let me pull up the numbers. Sorry about that. I do want to give a very special shout out to the super chat by Rook VTM. Bitcoiners need to be trolled too. Man up. Appreciate the $19. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $90,070. Block height 886,167. Sats per dollar 1,100. 110. Market cap 1.7 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 8.86%. Percentage issued 94.43%, decline from all-time high, negative 17.5%. Realized monetary inflation 0.96%. In the grand scheme of things, things are just getting warmed up. They're just getting started. This continues to go down. This is my favorite stat out of everything. The price, okay, great, 90,000, sweet. Block height, love that. Sats per dollar, great. But right here, because it embarrasses fiat currencies. Like it proves that Bitcoin is just better money, right? Anyways, so let's talk about the shift of the Overton window. Again, if you guys are new to the show, we talk about the Overton window a lot. The Overton window is the acceptable window of political discourse. And essentially our job as Bitcoiners is to move that window so that the idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, the idea is Bitcoin as money, the idea of all the Bitcoin ethos that we have about individualism, meritocracy, freedom, free markets, right? Those ideas start to become extremely popular with the mainstream, right? That's our job as Bitcoiners, is to really move that Overton window, but we have to do it carefully. If you do it too abruptly, the problem is that if we were talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve 5 years ago, it would be considered radical. It would be a radical model. Like no one would take it seriously. Like we seen this when BlackRock was talking about Bitcoin. They're like, it's an index of money laundering. Fast forward 5 years later, they're like, this Bitcoin thing is amazing, right? That is the Overton window shifting, right? So we got to continue to shift it. We've done so much in the last year in terms of shifting it. A year ago, if I would have told you everything that would have happened, you would not have believed me. So we've done an incredible job. But when we have this momentum, we have to keep our foot on the gas pedal and keep going 100 miles an hour. And, it's very difficult to have momentum. When you have momentum, you definitely want to use it. So first things first, here's Trump once again talking about Fort Knox, and he uses the word stolen. So he's basically saying what all of us are thinking, what we were talking about what we were talking about on Simply Bitcoin last time we brought up Fort Knox. Is the gold really there? Or is it stolen? Did they steal it? Did they take it? Here's Trump.
We have found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud so far, and we've just started. We're actually going to Fort Knox to see if the gold is there, because maybe somebody stole the gold. Tons of gold. Some of the agencies. So I think it was actually, there was a lot of genius in sending it. We're trying to find out if people are working. And so we're sending a letter to people. Please tell us what you did last week. If people don't respond, it's very possible that there is no.
So it's kind of like an interesting rabbit hole, right? So, and we have to remember, like, Fort Knox was specifically built, for the 6102 order. It was specifically built to house the gold that the US government stole from American citizens, right? How crazy is that? So like the government was basically saying it's illegal to hold a certain type of metal. That is the argument. Like, you can't hold this type of metal. It's illegal for you to do that. That is nuts to me. That is crazy. Now, could you imagine the implications? Because the reason that the way that they justified it was like, listen, we're going to hold the gold on behalf of the American people. And what we're going to do is we're going to give you dollars in return, but don't worry, you can exchange the dollars for the gold, and you're going to be holding it on behalf of the country. Could you imagine the implications if they audited Fort Knox and the gold wasn't there? The implication would be that they just stole it. They stole it. They took the gold from people and they stole it. They used it for themselves. It was never on behalf of the people, because that's one of the excuses that you always hear. It's for your good. No. It's for your good. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to obfuscate what you're really doing, what your real intentions are, and you're saying it's good for the people. No. It's good for you.
right? So when you hear central bankers talk about, oh, we need a central bank digital currency in order to ensure sovereignty, no. You need a central bank's digital currency to ensure your employment. That's really what it's about. It has nothing to do with the benefit of people. If you want sovereignty as an individual, buy Bitcoin and put it into self-custody. Nothing else will give you better sovereignty than that. Full stop, right? And it's uncomfortable for governments, right? Because governments have been the issuers of money, right? It's a very difficult conversation for sure. So moving on to the next shift of the Overton window, here's Elon Musk, and he went on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. And of course, he's talking about all his latest experiences with Doge and all these things. But once again, he brings up Social Security. Now, Social Security is very interesting. Social Security was established during the same presidency that the 6102 order happened, which was the FDR presidency. FDR was the only American president that ran for more than 2 terms. At his time during his presidency, the top income bracket was 90%. And what's really interesting about Social Security is that it automatically gets deducted from your paycheck if you're a W-2 employee in the United States, right? So now you have the world's wealthiest man, and also the dude literally invented self-landing rockets and self-driving cars, and he's explaining why Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, which is quite interesting. Again, it's moving the Overton window. It's moving the Overton window in terms of, wait a second, I trusted the government with my gold. I trusted the government with Social Security, but the government isn't doing good back by me, right? And I think we're seeing that with the whole Doge thing, right? We're seeing that with all the fraud and capital misallocation that's been discovered. Like, people are starting to ask the questions like, wait a second, like, what do you mean if you're a federal employee, you could just work from home while I slave away? You don't even have to answer 5 questions as to why, 5 things that you did this week. Like, you have a problem against that? Like, what do you mean you want to audit us, the government? You can't audit us. We can only audit you. Like, and then you're thinking about it. You're like, wait a second. Like, is this a government by the people for the people, or is this a government by the government for the government, right? And again, the reason that this is all so important is because it leads you down the rabbit hole of, which I think is the inevitable conclusion. The question isn't what is money? The question is, what is government? What is the role of government in society, right? And the bigger the government, historically has shown that the more oppressive that government is, the more oppressive the government is, the less free market is happening. The less free market, the less prosperity, right? So this is something that I think the world is really waking up to. I mean, and this is a worldwide phenomenon. This isn't just happening in the United States. The first libertarian candidate in world history, President Javier Milei, was elected in Argentina, and apparently he's doing really, really well economically, right? So anyways, here's a clip from Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Well, I mean, the government's one big pyramid scheme, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you can tell me better than anybody.
Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time.
Right, explain that.
Oh, so, people pay into Social Security, and the money goes out of Social Security immediately, but the obligation for Social Security is your entire retirement career. So you're paying you're paying like if you look at the future obligations of Social Security, it far exceeds the tax revenue. Far. Have you ever looked at the debt clock?
Yes.
Okay. There's our present day debt, but then there's our future obligations. So when you look at the future obligations of Social Security, the actual national debt is like double what people think it is because of the future obligations. So basically, people are living way longer than expected, and there are fewer babies being born. So you have more people who are retired and that live for a long time and get retirement payments. So the future obligations. So however bad the financial situation is right now, for the federal.
So yeah, it's kind of like, this is why I keep bringing up this term. People are making fun of me in the chat, right? The Overton window is shifting. People are kind of waking up to, to what is the role of government in society, right? I think that's really, and again, is it worth it to have government so big in society? Are they really doing the things? Are they really doing things that are benefiting me? And here in the United States, I think that's a big reason as to why Trump was elected, right? I think people were sick and tired of, and talk about shifting the Overton window. People were sick and tired of like the endless wars. I mean, I remember that there was one time where Trump was on one of the debate stages. I think this was like in 2016, 2017. And like, back then it was still like, and talk about the Overton window, it was still like socially acceptable that the war in Iraq was a good idea. And then Trump was like, no, it was a terrible idea. And you saw all the politicians on stage just with their mouths wide open, like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. Right. So essentially what's happening is the Overton window is shifting more and more and more. And people are realizing, wait a second, if there was all this fraud that was discovered, if the gold isn't there, like, why am I paying Social Security if I'm not going to get any of that? The government is like $50 trillion in debt. Like, why are we funding wars overseas if people our generation can't even make rent? Like, we can't even afford a house. Like, what is going on here, right? There needs to obviously be a big shift. And again, talk about shifting the Overton window. Elon Musk is now following the Bitcoin Senator Cynthia Lummis. I had an interview with her in DC. You guys should definitely check it out. It's on the Simply Bitcoin channel. And last but not least, again, Elon Musk is referencing Keynes, right? Keynes was a great evil. And he was responding to David Sachs. David Sachs is the AI and crypto czar. And he says, paying people to dig holes and fill them back up increases GDP as it is currently measured, even though that this activity has no value. Similarly, hiring an extreme number of regulators to vex entrepreneurs nominally increases GDP in the short term, even though it reduces output in the long term. The flaw of Keynesianism is to see all government spending as stimulus, even when it's value destroying. Right? Saylor replies and he says, Keynes enriched the overlords, Satoshi empowered the people. So you see where this is going, right? Just connect the dots, everyone. Just connect the dots for me. Keynes was a great evil. Saylor is responding, and Elon Musk follows the Bitcoin senator. Just put two and two together, right? All roads lead to Bitcoin. I can't emphasize that enough. The question that you guys have to ask yourself is, again, it's the question that you guys have to ask yourself is not what is money, but what is government? And I think if you ask the question, what is money, you'll inevitably ask the question, what is government eventually? And I think that's what's happening. Anyways, what are you thinking, Opti?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know you're getting trolled for the Overton window stuff, but this is actually what's happening. Yes, it moves a lot slower than we would like to see it happen. But I think the fact that we're hearing these conversations, or rather more of these rhetorical questions, is a good thing. This is why I'm a Bitcoiner in the first place, because before I even found out about Bitcoin, I learned that the whole system, the whole fiat system is a fraud and that it's all fake, and that fiat system is actually the giant Ponzi scheme. And now that we're seeing these conversations happen, two things I think should happen after people realize, one, that maybe we don't have all the gold that we claim we have, and two, the biggest thing about this whole Doge, Department of Government Efficiency thing is that I think few people really understand just how big the unfunded liabilities are that the government has claimed for people. And that's the biggest thing that is most likely never going to get touched. Like, yes, we can talk about Doge eliminating like $2 trillion of waste, etc. But the biggest spending that the government does is these liabilities and, of course, the military industrial complex. And those things are never going to get touched. And if they do get touched, then that's when all hell breaks loose, especially for all like our boomer parents out there that will basically work their whole life, and now they realize, wait, like I am never going to get Social Security. Go to it's at the bottom right, Nico, the very bottom. Yeah, right there. Yeah, look at all that. Look at all that money that the government claims to owe the citizens and has no way of paying it. Now, I love this idea of cutting government waste, cutting government spending, but until we address this problem, nothing's really going to change. But I do like the fact that we're having these conversations. Like I said, before I even found about Bitcoin, I, understood about the fiat Ponzi that we live in, collateralized Social Security numbers, etc. The creature from Jekyll Island, some just like basics of Bitcoin understanding of you looking into Bitcoin. But the fact that we're starting to see these conversations happen, or even, as much as you guys know, I don't like Elon Musk. Hold on. As much as you guys know, I don't like Elon Musk, or rather am slightly skeptical, but some of the stuff he does, some of his connections, etc. I do like the fact that we are talking about this stuff, because maybe more people, especially as we're seeing, like the bro culture coming out of Joe Rogan, maybe if all these people start to wake up and realize, wait, maybe everything isn't exactly as I've been told, and maybe this whole system is a scam. What are the alternatives? We do finally start to get more people into Bitcoin. So do I think it's enough? Obviously, we like to talk about action. As someone was saying, I vote with my money. I put as much as I can into Bitcoin. I only hold Bitcoin. I'm a Bitcoiner. And I love seeing these conversations. But as you can tell, we're still kind of in the early innings of like what, a lot of people like to call the Great Awakening here, where people realize, hey, maybe everything isn't exactly as it seems. Maybe we're living in the giant Truman Show here. And part of that happens with the fiat currencies backing the media conglomerates, and, people not realizing that this is all backed by paper money, that there is fake money out there. It is backing everything. We're all working for fake money, and nothing's going to change until we address that fundamental problem. But again, so many people were basically promised this money for when they retire, work 40 plus years. And, when you're 60 plus, you'll be able to get, your retirement money and life will be good. And now people are realizing, like, wait, maybe there is no money. Maybe there's no gold in Fort Knox. And that's why I think a lot of us millennials are just so hell-bent and all in on Bitcoin, because either we inherently know, or you've done the research and you realize like there is no money for you. So you can't bet on the government, saving you when you retire. So you got to do something and protect yourself. And of course, we think the best way to do that is for you guys to start saving in Bitcoin. You don't have to become a degenerate trader. You just have to slowly but surely save in Bitcoin. Make sure that you're storing your excess in Bitcoin. And soon enough, as more people realize that, hey, maybe this fiat system is a giant Ponzi scheme, you're protected. But we're seeing that people like their slumber. People like to, get lulled into that false sense of complacency, and like, no, the people in power know what they're doing, or even worse, like, we just need to elect the right people in power, and they'll, we just need the right people, the right smart people to control the economy, and things will work out. And we're like, no, it's fundamentally rotten at its core. And this is why we're Bitcoiners. This is why we are all here talking about a whole new monetary system, because the one that we were promised is not as it's designed, or rather it's designed in a certain way to steal from the average everyday people. And so, I love that these conversations are happening. Hopefully this wakes up more people. More people realize, hey, maybe there's, some fuckery afoot, and I have to protect myself. And I think this is where we're moving. Not only is number going to go up, but freedom's going to go up, responsibility is going to go up. People are going to kind of take back their own lives and realize, hey, I can't just trust a politician to have my best interest in mind, when we all know that it's all backed by economics. It's always going to go back to the money, and you have to protect yourself. It's just very simple. But a lot of people are afraid of this, or rather they don't have time. A lot of people are just working their jobs, don't have enough time to understand economics and do all the readings, but hey, they're going to learn, and hopefully we can get more people off the fiat system and into the Bitcoin safety rafts. And this is why we constantly do this. This is why our life's mission is to, give you guys the most entertaining show possible, so that more people come in and realize, oh, I have to fix my own life. I have to save in Bitcoin, because we're on the Titanic and it's sinking. So,
Amen.
Stay humble. This is the way.
Amen. We're definitely winning. Nothing like an Opti rant on Monday. I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. 2,749 live viewers on Twitter, 905 live viewers on YouTube, and 110 live viewers on Rumble. You guys are if you guys are enjoying the show, smash that like button. We blew past our goal of 300 likes on YouTube, so I'm gonna move it up to 500 likes on YouTube. If you guys are enjoying the show, there's 900 of you guys. Smash the like button. So far, we've received $30 in super chats. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. I think we should just announce it right here, right now, guys, because Opti's been wanting to, Wine has been wanting to. Guys, our new merch has just dropped. You guys could check out the link to it. All brand new designs with the new logo, the t-shirts. This is extremely high quality. We pay attention to detail. It's very, very high quality, guys. This isn't drop shipped. We buy the inventory beforehand. It's really, really well done. So if you guys want to support us, go check out the latest limited edition merch drop. Simply Bitcoin Reborn with the new logos. This hoodie is ridiculously comfy. So is the shirts. So get yours while supplies last, because we really didn't buy.
Yeah, we didn't buy enough.
We definitely didn't buy enough.
Also for everyone, they are a little oversized. So, just keep that in mind.
Yeah, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to put the link in the live chat so you guys can check it out. Get yours while supplies last. If they sell out quickly, we'll do a new batch. No, but it will be a new design. It won't be this design.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is limited, bro. This is scarce. All right, everybody, let's get to news. We have so much to talk about today, guys. Stay tuned. We have an update regarding El Salvador, the IMF loan, and further Bitcoin restriction implications. And then, Opti, what do we have during the culture segment?
Yes. So Parker Lewis dropped a great article. And as we've been seeing a trend, there's been, a recent trend about not calling Bitcoin money or currency and call it a commodity. And Parker Lewis just, I think, completely destroyed that narrative. So don't be afraid of calling Bitcoin money and or a currency. So I'll break down a little bit of it. We'll have a little bit of discussion. I think it's a great piece, and people in the chat were actually asking about it today. So perfect culture for you guys today. We are running long, so I might not be able to read the whole thing. I'll have to pick and choose parts from it, but yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, get the Simply Bitcoin merch while supplies last. Go to simplybitcoin.com. You'll find it there. Anyways, guys, let's get to news. We have tons to talk about. We will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Bitcoin security matters, but managing private keys can sometimes be complicated, especially multi-sig. What if you can secure your Bitcoin without worrying about losing a seed phrase or giving up custody? With Casa, you can completely control your Bitcoin with multi-key security, so even if one key is lost or stolen, your funds stay safe. No single point of failure, no stress. That's what I absolutely love about these guys. They make taking Bitcoin into self-custody incredibly easy with their best in industry user experience through their app. I've been personally recommending Casa for years now to my friends and family because they will get all the benefits of multi-key self-custody security without the hassle of having to learn complicated UI. And if you're thinking of one day passing on your Bitcoin to the next generation, their inheritance plan has you covered. Also, if you're a business looking to add Bitcoin to your treasury, do it the secure way with Casa for Business. To get started, go to casa.io today and get 5% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium with promo code SIMPLY. Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledin is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out ledin.io today.
All right, everybody, we are back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about that. We have an update for you guys regarding Freedom Country. IMF board approves $1.5 billion loan to El Salvador with further Bitcoin restrictions. So it seems like there's more restrictions. There's more requirements to that IMF loan. Also, I saw an article by The Economist, which is, I would say, like a kind of like very fiat newspaper. And check out this headline. El Salvador's wild crypto experiment ends in failure. Its curtailment is the price of an IMF bailout and one worth paying. I mean, like, yeah. The experiment didn't fail because it failed. The experiment failed because the IMF like forced El Salvador to do something. Also, breaking news: we are dumping right now hard back to 87K, ladies and gentlemen.
Gotta love
Weinicus in the chat saying, Trump sold, which is hilarious. Yeah, man. I mean, it was nice while it lasted, everybody. All right, so back to the news. What are we talking about? IMF board approves $1.5 billion loan to El Salvador with further Bitcoin restrictions. The IMF executive board approved a $1.5 billion loan for El Salvador with a condition that the country will further restrict the government's Bitcoin-related economic activities, including transactions and purchases of Bitcoin. The approval grants El Salvador an immediate $113 million disbursement. The IMF says the deal will attract more multilateral support, totaling $3.5 billion in financing over the next 40 months. Last month, El Salvador's Legislative Assembly amended the Bitcoin law, removing Bitcoin status as legal tender while retaining the words legal tender. As a result, accepting Bitcoin by private businesses is now voluntary, and it cannot be used to settle taxes or government debts. Additionally, the government has been reducing its involvement with the Chivo wallet. Quote, the potential risks of the Bitcoin project are being addressed in line with fund policies and with fund advice to the authorities. Prior actions include legal reforms that have made acceptance of Bitcoin by the private sector voluntary and ensured that tax payments are made only in US dollars. Transparency of the public crypto e-wallet has been strengthened, and the government plans to gradually unwind its participation in the e-wallet, the IMF acknowledged in a press release. Despite these changes, El Salvador's administration seems committed to Bitcoin. The country's ambassador to the United States, Milena Mallorca, interviewed her at the Plan B Forum in El Salvador. Go check that out. And Stacey Herbert from the Bitcoin office continues to reaffirm that El Salvador is Bitcoin country. Besides, El Salvador has continued adding Bitcoin to its reserves and is currently holding 6,090 Bitcoin, valued at more than $500 million. And as you can guys see, you know, they got that IMF money. Are they using that IMF money to stock the dip? I mean, you can make a pretty good argument for that. You never know. Moving on.
However, the IMF now claims that further program commitments will limit government engagement in Bitcoin-related economic activities, including the purchase of Bitcoin. Quote, going forward, program commitments will confine government engagement in Bitcoin-related economic activities, as well as government transactions in and purchases of Bitcoin, was stated in a blog post. The IMF also noted that further steps include enhancing the regulation of the country's digital asset industry in line with, quote, international best practices. Regulation and supervision of digital assets will be enhanced in line with evolving international best practices, the IMF said. Okay, a lot to unpack here, right? And remember, the legacy media, as we've discovered, are essentially propagandists. They're not media. I don't see them as media. A lot of their funding, we've discovered, come from governments themselves. And the way that this is framed is, bullshit. They're like, I'm sorry, I'm going to use that word. Bukele buckles, right? El Salvador's wild crypto experiment ends in failure. It didn't end in failure. The IMF strong-armed El Salvador into making a certain decision and dangled $1.4 billion over their head. No. And again, it didn't end in failure. All it did was, now Bitcoin is voluntary, which in my opinion is the way it should be, right? It's still considered a currency in El Salvador. There is no capital gains implication. So yes, Bukele definitely had to give some concessions. It's definitely not ideal, but this narrative from The Economist is bullshit. And again, the thing that I will say, my own commentary is, why does the IMF care so much about Bitcoin being legal tender? Why do they care so much? Why do they care so much? This is a tiny country. This is a country that has a $32 billion GDP. Why do they care so much that, El Salvador wants to use Bitcoin as legal tender? Why do they care? And the reason that I think they care is because they don't want other countries doing that. Because I think if other countries start doing that, they lose control. And I think that's what it has to come down to. I think the IMF is more so concerned about control. And just like governments and just like politicians, what we were talking about earlier, they try to obfuscate it behind, we're doing this for the public good. We're seizing everyone's gold for the public good. The Social Security is for the public good. Bitcoin being legal tender is for the public good. Bitcoin not being legal tender is for the public good. There's it's going to cause financial instability. You know what causes financial instability? Fiat money. Fiat money is what causes instability, uncertainty. It takes away people's ability to plan into the future. Bitcoin provides a good alternative, especially if you live in a country where your fiat currency is weak. And the IMF just basically goes in there and is just like, no, we can't have any of that. This is for your own safety. No, that's bullshit. I think the IMF is scared. That's what I think. I think the IMF is really, really scared of the Bitcoin experiment succeeding in El Salvador, and they're trying to walk it back. Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely my take as well. First of all, the IMF is one of the biggest, institutions in the world, basically. And why do they care about what a small 32 billion Central American country does with their money? That, I think, is the biggest signal here. And the fact that when they kind of, negotiated for this loan, that was the main sticking point of, you got to kind of back away from Bitcoin, your Bitcoin investments. You need to do that less, eliminating that legal tender status for paying your taxes with Bitcoin. That is the stuff where you see that as a Bitcoiner and you're like, okay, what is the real reason for all this stuff? Obviously, when this news came out, a lot of Bitcoiners felt disappointed, Bukele was kind of bending the knee. And then there was a couple of days last week, I think, where the Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin a day buys from El Salvador kind of slowed down. And then they just mass stack 7 or 11 coins following it up. So it is pretty interesting to see that either one, El Salvador is kind of ignoring what the IMF rules are, or they don't really mean anything, or, you know, are they using that loan money to buy Bitcoin? Like, what exactly is going on over there? But I think the biggest tell here is what we've been saying ever since the El Salvador news came out, that if this starts to catch on with other small countries, you know, either Central South American countries or, you know, globally, then it's going to catch on like wildfire. And obviously now we know that that's true, because if the IMF is making such a big point about the Bitcoin law and Bitcoin country, then you know that they are afraid that there's something with Bitcoin that they do not like, which is very obvious when you realize how the fiat system works. You know, they get all their power from the chains that fiat system does. You know, the fact that they can print money, loan it out to people, get interest on it, basically, you know, financially enslaved countries. And the fact that this is the main sticking point is the Bitcoin law. I think that's all the signal anyone really needs, that, hey, if the IMF is afraid of Bitcoin in a tiny country, I don't know about you, but that just makes me more bullish on Bitcoin. So I love the fact that Bukele is kind of, he did a tweet. He was kind of funny. Everyone, even we kind of, our Twitter team mentioned it, reported on it, that they stopped making Bitcoin buys, and everyone, and he responded with like, ye of little faith.
No, but hold on. Like, you know, and Stacy's the one that pointed this out to me. They did it on purpose, bro. El Salvador, like, look, take a look at this trade, everybody. So this is when El Salvador stopped purchasing, right? You see that line? What happened? We dumped. And what happened after we dumped?
That's the USD balance, or is that the price of Bitcoin?
That's the Bitcoin balance. The Bitcoin balance is
but
the
green
yellow
line, or
the green is the price,
okay.
Right? So, dude, check it. It's someone knew
the dip.
Someone knew. They stopped buying for a week before the dip, bro. Someone traded the F out of that. They're like, stop buying because there's a dip coming. The dip happened, and someone started, and then people started buying again, right? So, yeah, listen, El Salvador's got to do what El Salvador is going to do, right? It's a small country. They're trying to get up. The IMF is holding. The signal here is not that El Salvador changed their policy. The signal here is that the IMF feels so threatened by Bitcoin that it forced a tiny country in Central America to change their laws on Bitcoin. That's how scared they are of it. That's the signal out of all of this. I think Bukele is crushing it. It's the only Bitcoin country. It's the only country that has a public strategic Bitcoin reserve. Shout out to Max and Stacy for that. So I still consider El Salvador Bitcoin country. They're playing the game, man. They're playing the game. This is the game, right? There is no concessions. Like, Bitcoin is still legal. You could still use Bitcoin as money. There's no capital gain implication, right? So yeah, it doesn't have that legal tender status, whatever, this and this and that, but they're playing the game. That's it. They're playing the game. That's just the way it is. Anyways, everybody, let's get to the culture. We have so much to talk about. We will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's positioned to quadruple their global footprint in 2025. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to make moves in sustainable, high-performance computing. They consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, and now they're headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. You can catch the latest buzz by following them at HIVE Digital Tech, or check out their website at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io. and see how Compass Mining can power your success.
All right. I think I lost Nico. He put me off. Guys, I can't be president in 4 years. Actually, no, yeah, I wasn't born here. I can't be
I'm
president.
back. Opti is running for president in 2028. Vote Opti.
I wasn't
Mr. Fields.
We can't do that. Legally speaking, you know, I'm a constitutionalist. That can't happen. Anyways. All right, let me put some context here. So we played on this show a lot of times. I'm sure if you watched the show before, you probably saw that clip of Howard Lutnick basically saying, don't call Bitcoin currency. And Nico, what's his official position?
Secretary of Commerce.
Yeah, Secretary of Commerce. He said, don't call Bitcoin money or a currency, just call it a commodity. And there's been a lot of people, I think Saylor's kind of been doing the same thing, call Bitcoin a commodity. Therefore, you know, the politicians will kind of get out of your way. And then all of us, you know, more, I would say, extreme Bitcoiners, we are like, no, Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is currency. Or even one of my favorite Bitcoiners, Beauty On, he's always saying, don't call Bitcoin money. You know, it's just code. And this is how we can kind of skirt the laws, even though they already have these laws like KYC, AMLs, etc., because they do view it as money, even though they say it's just property or just a commodity. And so there's a lot of people that maybe are confused about, like, what is Bitcoin exactly? Is it a commodity? Is it money? Is it currency? And I think even some of us seasoned Bitcoiners have a hard time explaining the difference between, you know, a money and a currency. And Parker Lewis, the GOAT, you know, used to be at Unchained. Now he's at Zapright. He dropped an excellent article in here, actually. I'll drop this in the chat for you guys because I can't read the whole thing. We are running a little late on today's show, but I do want to kind of highlight some of this stuff because I did see some people in the chat kind of asking, you know, what is Bitcoin, a commodity? Is it a currency, etc.? So again, I'm not going to read the whole thing. You guys want to read the whole thing? I dropped it in the chat. Maybe I'll put it in the description for you guys, or just go to Parker Lewis's Twitter. But there is some good signal in here. So I'm going to read, you know, the beginning and towards the end. Here's Parker Lewis, and he goes, Bitcoin is money and currency. And here we go. Most people in their day-to-day practical lives don't distinguish between money and currency, and rightly so. As a practical distinction, it's mostly irrelevant. The dollar is money and currency, and most people will look at you cross-eyed if you even ask them the difference. But the difference does matter from a policy perspective, and there are implications for Bitcoin going forward as mass adoption occurs, which is why this discussion matters, and this is why we bring it up on the show, because as we're seeing, Bitcoin is becoming very political. We know the regulators are coming after us. They're looking at us, as we saw from the first digital asset meeting or summit with Cynthia Lummis. They mainly focus on the regulations, you know, some clarity here, how to define things, and of course, stable coins. So Bitcoin is a commodity, money, and a currency all at once. And there's fundamental consequences to this that makes Bitcoin unique in the history of money. Historically, certain commodities have emerged and been used as money, and gold is a great example. Gold emerged as commodity money over thousands of years, but gold was never practically or functionally a currency on its own. The US dollar and virtually all fiat currencies, all paper money, emerged as a fractional representation of gold, but more importantly, a currency that was convertible to gold. And here's the famous quote. If you've been a Bitcoin, you probably heard this. JP Morgan himself is famously quoted as saying gold is money and everything else is credit. And the dollar was credit for gold. It was a contract, as in an actual contract convertible to gold. And you don't have to understand the history of gold to accept that the entire world converged on gold as money and as a standard of value. The gold standard existed. It wasn't random. And in response, you know, gold was money and it wasn't a currency on its own. And then the dollar was created and it came out and it's a currency. So prior to fiat currencies, gold was coined. Importantly, the process of coining necessitated an issuer, and the process of coining set a standard weight and measure. And through that process, gold was transformed into a currency. The coin was the currency, and the refinement and issuance was necessary to make it so. An issuer, and this is the main point with Bitcoin, an issuer was a necessary part of the equation. And this has helped, you know, give it its utility, et cetera, et cetera. And then fiat currencies were just a progression of the same reality. Every fiat currency needs an issuer. And this is the fundamental difference between, of course, Bitcoin, gold, and fiat currencies. With the advent of Bitcoin, that is no longer true. And it's not just because magic internet money is amazing. There is something fundamentally different about Bitcoin that makes it unique. Bitcoin is the first form of money to ever exist that is also a currency. Read that again. Bitcoin is the first form of money to ever exists that is also a currency. There is no issuer of Bitcoin, and it is also functional as a currency on its own without the need for the issuer. The fundamental reason is that there's also a defined unit baked into Bitcoin, not a standard unit, but importantly, a unit, aka sats, or if you're a BitMaxes, etc. Bitcoin has no issuer, but it is also the measure. It eliminates the need for an issuer to set standard units. It eliminates the need for standard weights and measures. In addition to eliminating the issue, the currency is also validated not by the issuer, but by the network itself. And these collective sets of facts and properties are what set Bitcoin apart and what revolutionizes money as we know it or have known it. Again, Bitcoin is a money that is also functional as currency because it collectively eliminates the issuer from the supply of currency. 2, it eliminates the need for an issuer to set a unit or units of measure. And 3, eliminates the need for an issuer in the validation of the currency and currency transactions. And any policymaker or those advocating for Bitcoin policy need to understand this. It changes money and currency forever. And this is just a TLDR. And then just finishing this up again, there's this whole breakdown about, some Bitcoin 101. If you're new to Bitcoin, need to kind of refresh yourself again. Why I put it in the chat so you can read it. And here I'm just going to wrap up a little bit, and it goes, the logic of Bitcoin as money and currency. Many people have arrived at the conclusion that Bitcoin is money or otherwise use it as a store of value, still question whether Bitcoin is viable as a currency, whether it should be a currency or whether it needs to be a currency to succeed, aka akin to what Michael Saylor has been saying. Saylor is one of the best advocates for Bitcoin. And of course, he says, I have an incredible amount of respect for him. And his view, shared by many, is that Bitcoin is a commodity and money, but not a currency. And this is not just a distinction between Bitcoin's use as a store of value versus use as a medium of exchange or a unit of account. Instead, it's that in the future, there will not be a logical basis or economic incentive to have a separate currency incremental to Bitcoin. There's no such need for a currency, therefore there won't be. And the insertion of a separate currency and currency layer would be the equivalent of trying to stop water from moving downhill. It would insert friction, costs without benefits, etc. And this is not an opinion. And, what should happen or what policy should or shouldn't be is simply explaining the economic reality based on logic and reason. Bitcoin works as a currency, and because it works as a currency, it will be economically irrational to not use it as a currency. Again, you guys could read the whole thing. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Kind of clear yourself up on economics and kind of some vernacular here. But I find it very interesting because, look, as you guys know on the show, you guys were telling me earlier, I don't consider myself a conservative. I'm probably more of an extreme right person because I'm a free market guy, and I love libertarian.
Whoa, relax. You're very right wing economically.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's where I was going. Okay. Don't misquote me here. But it's very interesting because Bitcoin is.
And I also want to emphasize too, not to interrupt, but that could be taken out of context, Opti.
Everything I say could be taken out of context.
You believe in small government, and you believe in free markets, right?
100%, and personal property.
And liberty. That's what you meant when you said what you said, because exactly it could totally misconstrued and take it out of context. Very important to provide clarification.
It's an attention economy. I'll take all the L's here. Anyways, I bring all this up today because as we're seeing,
none of the social stuff.
Yeah, none of the social stuff. I'm Mexican. What are we talking about here? Anyways, all of this stuff I think is very important to be talking about right now. Currently, as Bitcoin starts to get proliferated into the public consciousness, and of course, there's people on the sides of Bitcoin isn't money; it's just a commodity, or maybe. Skeptics of Bitcoin are like, oh, Bitcoin will never be a currency. It's never going to be the world reserve currency. Like, what are you guys even doing? Or, very simply, as we've seen Jamie Dimon and Jamie Dimon and Powell say recently, it's like, oh, Bitcoin is just a store of value. It's like digital gold. And I think the fundamental idea here that we've been talking about on this show for a very long time is that Bitcoin is separate to all of the boxes and categories of money, of currency that we've ever seen, of the traditional financial system that we've encountered our whole lives. And this is why we're seeing politicians, regulators are all trying to fit Bitcoin into a box. But as we're seeing, it's a totally different beast. And now people are starting to kind of wake up to this. And we're starting to see, especially with some of the recent SEC rulings, that it's getting very hard for them to kind of understand what's going on with Bitcoin, to separate it from shit coins, to try to, put the Bitcoin into the fiat box. And I think this is only going to increase. So I think it's very important for us to kind of brush up on a lot of the things we talk about in Bitcoin. I'm kind of with Parker here on this. This is why I brought it up. Like, I'm not afraid to say that Bitcoin is money, even though that does kind of come with a lot of implications out there. But to me, it's money. It's a currency. It's used as a store of value, medium exchange, and a unit account for a lot of us Bitcoiners. And I don't think we should shy away from this. Obviously, I get the rhetoric and the perspective of, hey, just call it commodity money. They'll get out of your way. I get that. But also, hey, Bitcoin is different. And I think that the powers that be will have to bend the knee to Bitcoin. And we're starting to see this happen, even though we're seeing a lot of shitcoinery as well. It's just a whole new paradigm. And I think we're starting to see people try to wrap their head around it. And this is only going to increase as the price goes up. So I wanted to come on here, arm you guys with a little breakdown on what's going on. Go read the whole article. Parker Lewis kills this at that the behest to the time here today. I had to just kind of hit some highlights there. But hit it, Nico.
I think you hit the nail on the head, bro. You see it with Saylor and you see it with Howard Lupnick, right? Howard Lupnick blatantly said on the Pomp podcast, he's like, look, guys, like, don't call it money. You're stepping on the politicians' toes. Bitcoin's a commodity. They'll leave you alone. Right? Like, that's what they've been saying. Like, that's been the narrative. That's been the thing. And this is where kind of rubber meets the road and where things are going to get a little bumpy. Like, I've been telling you guys for a minute now, we just went through the disintermediation of information and state. We are going to go through the disintermediation of money and state. This is an inevitability. It's not going to be top down. It's going to be bottom up. And just like the same phenomenon that you saw with social media, where every day you can tell that another person was no longer consuming CNN or Fox News. They were consuming X, or they were consuming, like, X as in Twitter, or they were consuming Nostr, or they were consuming independent content creators on Rumble or on YouTube. Like, that's who they were getting their news from. And slowly but surely, it reached critical mass. It reached a point where the majority of people no longer consume their news off of legacy media, which we now know is controlled. Like, look at the Economist article. Like, it's so blatant now that you have alternative free speech where people can get their news. Now, I think what is going to happen, and the phenomenon is slowly starting, it's in the very infancies of it. You're going to see something very similar. So I'll give you an example. What is my unit of account? It's been Bitcoin, right? It's Opti's unit of account. It's Bitcoin. Good friend of mine, BTC Sessions, incredible YouTube channel. He's been on a Bitcoin standard for like 6 years now, right? So that is only the amount of people that are doing that is only increasing by the day. It's not decreasing. The amount of people using fiat is decreasing. The amount of people using Bitcoin, and to be fair, crypto as alternatives, is only increasing. It's going to get to a point, regardless of what governments do, that it reaches a critical mass. And this is where things get sticky. This is where things get messy. This is where you're going to see them push back. You're going to see them try to retain their power of their ability to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. We're not there yet. Also in the chat, there's an OptiGate 2.0 apparently happening. People are saying that they're tired of Nico stepping on Opti. It's not like that, guys. There's a method to the madness. There's a method to the madness, isn't there, Opti?
Yeah, I'm an extremist here. You got to reel me in a little bit. It's a good balance here, you know.
Oh man. All right, well, guys, this was a great show. I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Go get our merch. It just dropped. It's absolutely beautiful. It's phenomenal. It's limited edition. Go to simplybitcoin.com and also get your tickets to BitBlockBoom. It's coming up. You definitely don't want to miss it. April 3rd through the 6th. Less than a month. If you use promo code BBB21, you get $100 off of your tickets. The entire Simply Bitcoin crew will be there. We definitely don't want to miss you guys. We want to see you guys in person, in the flesh. They have a barbecue. They have an axe throwing contest. They have the conference day. They have the workshop day. This is one of the best Bitcoin events of the year. It's Bitcoin only. It's in Dallas, Texas. It's awesome, guys. Use promo code BBB21 to get $100 off of your tickets. Simply Bitcoin will be live streaming the conference day. Should be a lot of fun. Opti and I, those conference days are rough to say the least. But you guys definitely don't want to miss it. So see you guys in Dallas, Texas, April 3rd through the 6th. And we will be at Mining Disrupt in Fort Lauderdale as well. Hope to see you guys there also. But until then, guys, have an amazing rest of your Monday. We're Simply Bitcoin Live. This is March 3rd of 2025. Man, this bull market better start picking up, bro. I'm kind of bored. We're like waiting for Trump and politicians to pump our bags, man. Like,
wow, status confirmed.
Like, what is going on? What is happening? What is happening? Is Bitcoin getting boring? Anyways, guys, we love you all. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. We'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.